Hej. Hej igen. Välkomna hit, Anders Håkansson, för er som inte träffat mig innan. Vi ska raskt byta ämne från träning till mat. And I'm very proud, switching languages here, I'm very proud to welcome, am I not being this?
You need to start with
Yeah, I think you can hear me so far at least. The important thing is that your mic is working. I'm very happy to present Fernando Fernandez-Aranda from Barcelona, who's a dear friend and research colleague, and one of the clinicians who have the most experience in addiction to food or addiction-like behavior related to food, and to what that actually is and how it relates to other to actual eating disorders as well. So I know Fernando has a lot of knowledge to share with us in this, and I'm very proud to welcome you, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here and for inviting me to this conference. Thank you, Anders. It's a great pleasure to be in this nice city. So I'm going to, unfortunately I have no knowledge about Swedish, but hey, I love this expression. So we are going to talk about food addiction. We are going to put in context in eating disorders, in obesity, but also with other behavioral addictions. And you will see why. This is my faculty disclosure, no commercial relationships to disclose. So let me briefly summarize about what is going to be the content of this talk. I'm going to briefly talk about some concepts and introductory parts, clinical factors associated to food addiction, potential risk factors involved, transdiagnostic perspective, therapy implications, potential related pathways that we may discuss and further research. As Anders was mentioning, so it's a controversial construct. Actually, it's no really good idea what we are measuring, what we mean exactly with food addiction, since Nora Volko and also the colleagues as Gerhard describe the concept, and also, for instance, in some papers where similar areas were activated when confronted with drugs in patients with substance abuse, or in persons with obesity or with problems with food. Both they were activating or deactivating similar areas from frontal cortex or from reward system. That means so leave open to the idea, is really the food addiction or is more an eating addiction? And this is something relevant because here we are talking about parallels with substance-related disorders, and probably here we are talking more about vulnerabilities and behavioral addictions models that probably may fit better in. We are going to discuss that. If we look in animal models, what we see is might be some references and some findings regarding supporting addiction to specific components, but not in humans. So we need to be clear about that and go ahead with this concept, of course with research, but knowing that we don't know exactly what that means. So if we look at the concept, it has been introduced many years ago, but of course it was till probably 2010, a little bit earlier, when Ashley Gerhard introduced the concept by means of a questionnaire, which is the Gale Food Addiction Scale, that then appears more publications and more research on that topic. You can see. So we don't know what we are discussing about, and you can see how it's increasing the number per year, and I'm sure the last couple of years is even double. So how is increasing a topic that actually we don't know what we are measuring. So clinical factors associated. If we look at the facts are showing us neuroimaging studies, similar neural circuits modulated by dopamine, basically activated in addiction and in obesity, in abnormal eating, In some specific eating disorders, if we think in binge eating disorders or bulimia, the Yale Food Addiction Scale, the first validated tool based on the 7 substance dependence criteria, and this might be something critical. We are using a model, a paradigm where probably substance-related disorders is not the best paradigm. Maybe we may look at non-substance-related disorders. Food addiction greatly in healthy controls depending on the population, from 2% if we look in Spain, as 12% if we look in Australia in university students, and mainly is being present where in obesity, around 30%, bulimia and binge eating disorder. Later we'll see some data about. Frequently, food addiction associated with higher eating severity and psychopathology. That means so somehow we are a bit confused. What are we really measuring? Are we measuring food addiction, whatever it is, or are we measuring eating disorder severity? Most likely improves when bulimia symptoms remit if we look at the literature, and however, as mentioned, is a highly controversial construct that we need further research. If we look in our own data, of course, those who report high food addiction is associated to palatable food. There is no salad there. There is no nice pies that we have seen here, but it's chocolate, it's ice, biscuits, bread, and pasta. With those nutrients, they have some problems. That means, again, so play a role, of course, the food and the palatability of the food, but there are many other factors that we have described, and they may play also a role, such as impulsivity and how it's related to emotional eating, as we have seen in some papers. So it was higher in obesity, emotional eating as expected, and also impulsivity was associated to that. But again, not only impulsivity, not only palatable food, but also emotional regulation or dysregulation. That means in one paper we have produced in our group, this was Ines Volz, at that time predoctoral student in our group, she found a relationship between, a clear relationship between emotional dysregulation and eating behavior, abnormal eating behavior. So somehow, so in food addiction also, the food is being used maybe as a way to regulate some emotional, especially negative emotions. If we look at some potential risk factors involved, this is the research network where we are developing a lot of research in Spain. Specifically, there are several groups, but in total we have 33 groups. I don't know if you have something similar here, where we are doing some translational research from different disciplines, from endocrinology to molecular biology, genetics, and psychology. So, and we are interested specifically to look at specific risk factors that might be involved, not only involving eating disorders, but also obesity, from more non-shared environmental factors to shared environmental factors, and of course biological factors, and how they may interact. And we are collecting data all over Spain. So specifically here we are going to concentrate in food addiction, and what we are doing is not only looking at eating disorders, but also in obesity and in other behavioral addictions that might be related to. So looking more across over diagnostic paradigm. So as mentioned previously, if we consider behavioral addictions, probably might be a better paradigm to understand also the concept of food addiction and our experience. In this paper, very nice, the authors describe how different factors might be involved. If we look at the first one, genetic predisposition, looking at the food addiction, there is no sufficient literature. There is no literature on that topic. That means it's something that needs to be explored. As for instance, we did some years ago, looking at specific polymorphism in This was like 3,200 mental disorders, including eating disorders, substance abuse, and looking which type of polymorphism were common or differential among the disorders. Something like that needs to be done, but so far there are no literature regarding food addiction and genetic vulnerabilities. If you look at brain functions and neurotransmitters, look at some papers, for instance, we have conducted regarding neuropsychological profile, regarding decision making. You know, I guess you are familiar with Iowa gambling test. We were interested to look at the whole obese patients, also those who have abnormal eating pattern in red are improving their decision-making capacity, how they are learning. We were comparing in blue with healthy controls, and of course we were comparing also with purple, with substance use disorders, and with gambling disorders. As you can see, in obesity, they have a similar learning pattern and similar decision-making failures too, and impairment as substance use had. Okay? And of course, it was totally different in gambling disorders. Might be interesting, and this we are conducting now, what will be the pattern from food addiction patients? Because of course, in obesity, not only have food addiction, or they score not all high in food addiction scale. If you look at some papers published by Ashley Gerhardt, she was looking at the neurobiological background from food addiction, and what she has discovered was, and explored, was which areas might be activated depending on the food addiction scores. What she has found is higher activation in specific areas associated to limbic system and reward system when food addiction scores were higher. So if we continue with this model, we need to look at personality traits, comorbidities. What about personality traits? We were looking at food addiction and personality traits. This was again one of the papers from Ines Foltz, one of the co-workers. And what we have found is associated to food addiction. Most of those papers, they are open access, so you can download, otherwise you can charge me. They are in Plasma, Frontiers in Psychology, so they are open access and you can download. Basically, what we have found are some specific traits related to self-directedness, low self-directedness. I don't know if you are familiar with the Cloninger scale. UPPS-P, what we are using for measuring impulsivity, is an international scale used, lack of perseverance, and negative urgency. So, suggesting again, food in those cases might be associated to a way to regulate and moderate emotions, negative emotions, and to cope with them. So, regarding personality traits, those were the traits that might be more associated. And if you look, were not impulsivity, but more how to deal with emotions. In another paper that we have published recently, also from Ines Foltz, we wanted to look in a big sample of 300 eating disorders. We wanted to look at what are the main mediating factors when we are considering food addiction. And again, so it was negative urgency. So like negative reinforcing, so when you have some problems, how you are coping with and how far you are coping with food, this was the biggest association, even higher than the emotional regulation process. Transdiagnostic perspective. If we look at eating disorders, this is something that has already mentioned and been published. So bulimia, basically, and binge purging anorexia were those who show higher food addiction scores, and followed by binge eating disorders and specified eating disorders. Looking at the food addiction and behavioral addictions, what we could find there. So this was recently published, produced by Susana Jimenez, Gemma Mestres, and Trevor Stewart from our department. So we were analyzing around 400 gambling disorders, how they will score about food addiction. Is something there or no? So important, we need to consider men and women, because otherwise this was one of the most relevant factors. And what we have found, women is more prevalent, the food addiction score, than in men. If we look at specific predicting factors of food addiction, as you can see in the model, sex, and that means being female, was one of the main factors. Around 30% of the gambling disorders who were females had food addiction score, whereas in males only around 1.5% was. Okay, if you look younger age, and again some specific personality traits that might be related to regulation of emotions, basically harm avoidance, higher harm avoidance. When you have conflicts, instead of looking for a solution, you are avoiding that and escaping, looking for other solutions such as food. So low cooperativeness and higher self-transcendence. If we look the whole model again, so we will have then sex and age here. We will have here the personality traits, which are mediators of the food addiction scores, and the general psychopathology. So we could have, if we're looking at a spectrum from impulsivity to compulsivity, we may have, this is well known from many authors who mention that, and we may see some presence of food addiction in gambling disorders, of course in bulimia and binge eating disorders, in binge purging anorexia, and in ADHD too. That means so many of them, they are also associated to obesity. This might be, of course, a consequence of excessive food. What is, if we are measuring food addiction, if we are measuring emotional eating, if we are measuring excessive eating? This is something that is not clear and needs to be clarified. So if we look at some conclusions in this section, so we'll see that the psychometric properties of these scales are good. 73% of eating disorders meet criteria for food addiction, while it's much lower in healthy controls. Higher food addiction scales are associated with binging eating disorders subtypes, if we think in eating disorders, but also with female, if we think also in gambling disorders. The best personality traits that differentiate eating disorders with and without food addiction were self-directedness and negative urgency, but also lack of perseverance. If we continue in the next section, therapy implications. We were interested, okay, if this is something that we don't know exactly what is, may change after therapy, and this was the idea. So, okay, let's look at that. What we did is look at the literature. There is not much literature on therapy outcome and food addiction, and then we did one study. This was conducted by Ines Hilker, also a former predoctoral researcher in our team, published at the European Eating Disorders Review on food addiction and bulimia. What happened after a brief intervention? What will happen with the food addiction criteria is a predictor of better or poorer outcome. This is just to give an overview about the new referrals we get per year in our unit. The eating disorders unit is something around 350 new referrals per year. We are using manualized therapy, and the specific brief therapy we have used in this study was a psychoeducational group therapy with bulimia, which is very well described and internationally applied. And it was a brief intervention, 6 weekly sessions, 90 minutes duration, 8 to 10 patients per group. Of course, normally they will continue later on with a longer group therapy, which takes like 16 weekly sessions additionally. But we are going to concentrate what will happen after a brief intervention, as this well. What we have seen is, sorry for that. what we have seen is that the food addiction criteria change. That means when you compare pre and post values, they change significantly. Those who reduce at least 50% of the symptoms, they decrease also the food addiction criteria, and it was also a change in the severity pattern from our patients. Looking at the predictors, food addiction score was predictor of abstinence, of binge and purging after this brief intervention. But again, so clarify not the idea how far this is just simply an indicator of severity of eating disorder symptomatology. Those who have higher eating symptomatology, higher eating psychopathology, they are scoring also higher in food addiction. And this is the case. So again, second conclusions, food addiction severity and diagnosis can indeed be reduced even by means of a brief intervention. Higher number of food addiction criteria at the beginning correlate positively with eating disorder symptomatology and with general psychopathology. Persistent attempt to quit, criteria 2, and tolerance are those of the skills which have lower capacity to be changed after a brief intervention. This was also interesting. And again, in bulimia, higher food addiction scores at baseline might be predictors of outcome. But again, so we don't know if what we are measuring is basically eating disorders severity. Looking at potential, this will be now the last section, potential pathways. We don't know exactly what is working on, but we need to think about. So what we are doing now is looking at sensorial aspects, sensorial, olfactory, and taste. If we think in palatable food, might be associated. And we are looking at brain activity. What is going on with brain activity in front of a specific stimuli? Do we have there a food addiction pattern, or is more an eating addiction pattern? And this is what we are doing nowadays. So there are some, the olfactory, as you know, so the olfactory bulb is really primary brain development, and they have several nutrients may influence directly in the bulb olfactory, and then of course endocannabinoids too, as has been shown in different models with animals. Regarding humans, we have conducted some research looking at the influence of the olfactory is going to the limbic system and then indirectly going to the prefrontal cortex too. So, and we want to look at how far, what sort of endocannabinoid selectives may have an influence on that, and why it was interesting for us, this area. So because we have conducted in last year one study in this cyber, and what we have compared was anorexia, healthy controls, and obese, looking at olfactory capacity and taste. And what we have found that in obese patients, they have hyposmia. In around 50%, they have reduced capacity, olfactory capacity. Whereas in anorexia, they have hyperosmia, and they have more capacity for detecting olfactory stimuli. We were looking further on that, and we thought, okay, might be an explanation and maybe a factor that may have an influence. And what we did, you can see here, so the body mass index in orange, the obese in blue, the anorexia, and here the capacity for detecting smells. Okay? So what we have found is that smell capacity was associated with emotional eating, as we were expecting, lower olfactory capacity, higher need to get more food, and then higher, of course, body mass index. It was a partial mediator which was ghrelin. So we thought this might be something that might be associated to that concept that we don't know exactly what is. Some groups from Holland, from Anita Janssen group, they detect with humans who were students, they were not patients, so that using chocolate as olfactory stimuli, brain reward activation during this exposure was linked to craving, at least for a short exposure. So we did something similar, and this was also a paper from Ines Volz in Scientific Reports you can download, has been published a couple of weeks ago. So looking at olfactory stimuli with chocolate, and then again, so we were seeing that the activation and the craving potential was there. But of course, again, so we don't know if it was the food or it was the predisposition, because what we were comparing was binge eating disorders with healthy controls. So, future research. Since we have different patterns that we have seen, so may have an influence in food addiction, in eating, in abnormal eating, in emotional eating, such as palatable food, impulsivity and emotional regulation. We are concentrating different areas, trying to show how effective might be specific approaches with those areas. With regard to emotional regulation and impulsivity, this was a European project we conducted several years ago. So we developed like a video game trying to increase emotional regulation capacity in patients. That means so it was an island where what we wanted to show them is an island that you may discover, but your emotions are being detected by a camera, basically positive and negative emotions, and your reactions, biometrical reactions, were detected by 5 biosensors. Basically heart rate variability, oxygen saturation, galvanic skin reaction, breathing, okay? And so the good thing with this video game was, okay, when you are excited and overreacting, and reacting impulsively, so you are going to be punished by the game. So the fishes you are not going to be able to capture. Your oxygen is going to run out. Anyway, but if you are controlling yourself, controlling your emotions, you are going to be able to capture everything. So this was the idea, and this is what we are using in that way. So if emotions are playing an important role in impulsivity too, we need to put that in our usual therapy. And this is what we are doing. This we have published in Cyber Psychology, and again, so you can download. We were comparing usual CBT therapy with a video game approach versus usual CBT only. And what we have found is that with the group where we were using an additional approach, the patients were able to regulate better their emotions and their impulsivity. We are, of course, developing that too and applying with behavioral addictions and with any other impulse-related disorders. And this will be the idea what we are now doing further research, so continue analyzing specific foods and what is the potential, if it's really addictive or not, at least in humans, therapeutical tools that we may use, and of course, brain reactivity in different areas and in front of different stimuli. So these are all the groups that are participating in cyber, and also Ashley Gerhard, with whom we are doing a lot of research in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fernando. We have quite plenty of time for questions. I have one. And thanks for a great presentation, Fernando. Really interesting. Let's say in our setting, I think I speak for most of Sweden. I could say that we don't have a developed clinical structure where we treat patients with a food addiction or addiction-like eating behavior. At least we don't really have that. And I think in many places it creates some confusion about where should that kind of problem be addressed. Who should treat that, and how, of course. What would you say? Would you advise that this kind of behavior should be taken care of in the same setting where you work with eating disorders, or should you do it in an addiction, alcohol and drug use clinic? What's the pros and cons of that?
Yeah, this is a good question and very difficult question. So, because to make things simple, if we think binge eating disorders, which are probably the most similar to that pattern, might be. So binge eating disorders, it's important that we detect them. So we are detecting in those patients who are going to bariatric surgery, those who are going to endocrinologists, and they have undetected the disorder. So in many cases, they are referring to us that we may assess to the eating disorders unit, but what we are doing is basically detecting if they have a binge eating disorder. If they have, so they are going to be included in our therapy approach. The problem is what is going on, what is going to happen with those cases that are referring basically emotional eating, okay? And might be there together with food addiction but no eating disorder. They are not going to receive, frequently they are not going to receive any therapy. So, and they are in a field that doesn't matter, so we are thinking who is going to be the best and what is going to be the best approach. If I say the truth, I don't know, it depends of the nature. Of course, one approach might be better than no approach. But I mean, so it depends on the nature of these characteristics. So far, if we see a patient who has a binge eating disorder, clearly she is going to be treated with us. Sometimes, if it's a case that we doubt, maybe it's not a binge eating, but clearly in front of negative emotions, is eating excessively, okay, she or he could profit from such an approach, and then we are including too. Okay? And I was telling she or he because more and more, especially with binge eating disorder field, we have more and more males too. Okay? I mean, so whereas frequently eating disorders will be 9-1, in binge eating disorders we may have 5-5.
Other questions for Fernando? Everything clear?
Yeah, the food is there, you know, we have no competitors.
That's all.
So good.
Yeah, speaking about food, then thank you very much, Fernando, for this. I think we learned a lot about this. You have great expertise in this area.
Thank you very much.
And some food reward for this.
Thank you.
Very, really
Basically salad.